since there's a lot going on right now, do you have other guilds reaching out to you on things that you've already done that they're trying to accomplish? Is there like an outreach program that people are looking to Arizona? Like they kind of, you guys set up a blueprint to get things more progressive and more open and more available for people trying to get into the industry?
A lot of, trying to get into the industry, i.e. become brewers, or other guilds?
Just making it easier to open a business and with licensing. I know licensing is a huge issue.
Yeah. I thought the question was in a different direction here. Arizona is a wildly beautiful place, brimming with over 100 brewing companies. I'm Rob Fulmer, the Executive Director of the Arizona Craft Brewers Guild. I'm joined by Deputy Director Andrew Bauman. Together we cover the state, bringing you the best of what's happening at our breweries and beyond. Welcome to Arizona Beer Frontier. I will tell you, and maybe you can fill in some color, Andrew, when we meet with another state, there is absolutely no information that I would ever withhold from them on how they can be successful, because their success does not detract from our success. So we do blueprint things. We have ideas. We have. We're actually going to Madison for a retreat for all guild directors and their staff, and we're gonna have our learning experience, our networking experience, and we're going to talk about. I'm talking about hiring and building a staff, because some people are part time or only one full time person, and how to do that, and what has to change in your organization to get that accomplished. So we have that, but in terms of what happens here in Arizona, Andrew talked a little bit about it. We want, if you work for a brewery and you do work in this state, we want to have a relationship with you. We want you to understand what we can do for you. We ultimately want you to work for an Arizona brewery. We want you to we would love for an out-of-state brewery to say, you know what, I see opportunity here. I'm going to put a brewery here. And if you put stainless steel and you get the right license in the state, you can be a member. And Gordon Biersch was when they were here. BJ's is a member, and they're out of state. And for people, I mentioned those two. I should mention Rock Bottom too. But those people trained brewers who went on to do other things. Sometimes in our state, and sometimes not. And we value that tremendously. And but did I answer your question? Or
yeah, and then the I guess the first part of that is, how much contact do you have with brewers, other guilds in other states, helping them kind of negotiate waters that you guys have already treaded through?
We have a good relationship, and we have discussions with other states. A lot of it, like you mentioned, comes down to licensing, and there's not a lot that, I mean, we can show them what we do and how it works. For them to take that and bring it to their members and then bring it to their legislators is really going to be on them. We share everything that any questions they have, we're glad to help with. And we do have one of the absolute best legislative and legal structures for breweries in the entire country. Some breweries have to put up with so much. It's unbelievable. And we don't get away scot-free. We do have to. There are some hoops we have to jump through, and sometimes breweries, even as recent as the last couple months, have been denied the ability to open a brewery because of whatever reason. It's the state, it's the city, it's the county. All these different things come into play.
Right. That's tough. Yeah, but I mean, we share how to run events, best practices. We share, how to best market, how to work with state agencies. And we all want the same rights, but we have to get their different places because each of the states has built their laws differently, and they had to work with different partners, and so they're irrevocably never going to be the same. Yep. And that's the beauty and the disappointment of the system is like, yeah, you can't get beers from everywhere, but I know you can get beers from everywhere. I know you can get beers from everywhere.
What?
No, you can't. I mean, but there's a beauty in that, like that you can't get it what you want all the time, and you guys, I know every one of your listeners knows how to get a beer that is not sold here. I get it. We get it.
Yeah.
eBay.
was a home brewer once, and we did that. We did that for our own beers, so we understand that, and that's part of our culture. But on the business side, I just don't get too serious about this, because there are bootlegging laws and
Yeah.
no, but
thanks.
But we as Andrew suggested, we do talk quite a bit with our colleagues, and in fact, we built an organization called the Arizona Brewers Guild Professionals, just for our own support network, that is bolted on to what the Brewers Association, the BA, is already doing, so that we have opportunities to every day talk with each other. There is a mentoring program that's run through the Brewers Association. I work with the Brewers Guild of Rhode Island, which is great, but we're probably going to reboot that because we should be at least in the same time zone. It's kind of hard to relate, but I do owe Gary up there a visit, so maybe I'll do that before the fall.
Do you have any plans to go to New Jersey to see what's going on over there?
Jersey.
I'm chomping at the bit. Champing at the bit. That is actually the word, champing at the bit, not chomping. Believe it or not. Look that up.
So from your standpoint, because we all get superficial kind of news of what's going on, from your understanding of the industry and the background of it, what is happening in New Jersey?
They were granted the right to be more than manufacturers. So they were in the same mold as a giant production brewery like Budweiser or Miller, and then they couldn't sell directly to the public, and they couldn't really have a taproom experience like here in Arizona. So they changed that law, and they said the only restriction where you can't sell more than 15.5 gallons, which is a keg to an individual, and you have to give a tour. That was the restriction.
Wait,
that was the law.
To each person?
Yes.
Yes.
Wait.
And
so
it was, for a while, it was one tour per year.
Oh,
No.
Jesus.
It was one tour every visit.
Oh,
It's now one tour per year.
Wait. So if I wanted to go and buy a growler beer from Fate right now, and I was in New Jersey, I would have to go get a tour first, and then I get my growler filled?
well, you wouldn't be able to do it here because they don't have a production brewery, so they wouldn't be able to even have that location.
So
They wouldn't even be able to.
That's
a few years back when I went to Georgia, and for those of you who don't know, Georgia's kind of like, or Savannah, Georgia's like Vegas. It's open alcohol. You can walk the streets of Georgia with open containers and all that. They had just started their Brewers Guild, because I remember I bought the shirt to help support them, because I went to a brewery in Georgia, and they were doing the same thing. They couldn't sell beer. They couldn't, because they were a production facility. So I bought a token for a tour, and that token was good for a crowler, a flight, or a pint.
Yep.
And so I was like, well, the growler is probably going to be the best, or the crowler is probably going to be the best value. I got my crowler, and the guy hands it to me in a brown paper bag, and he's like, if you open it in here, if you get anywhere near that front door, we have to pour it out. If you take a step outside and open it, you're free to go.
Yeah. And
that is nicely changed since they got their guild, but
yeah, and remember what I said: more restrictive on the East Coast, more liberal on the West Coast. And so you're seeing. So that law was written, and what people understand, like, the law is not the law. You can write a law. But the agency that has to enforce the law gets to write the rules and regulations. So how do we enforce this? How do we? What are the day-to-day operations that you have to follow? Like, how do they monitor 15.5 gallons? How do they monitor tours?
Hey, put it back on the business to do that.
Well, but they have to write. The agency that oversees them has to write those rules. Well, so that's where the gray area is, and there are these kinds of things in the alcohol industry in every state. And you can say, well, no, Oregon, no, everything's cool. They would never do that. Like, well, I don't know, man. Like there are people who are ready to burn shit down right now. Oh,
right.
Sorry, I swore, but
Oh, shit. Edit this out, Ed.
they're ready to burn shit down
Nah,
for
it's
their
fine.
own purposes. So, like, they don't care about the backlash. They'll do what they need to do because it serves another purpose. So, In this case, New Jersey, they wrote a bunch of rules. They said, part of our philosophy for our alcohol control is we need to create fairness. And since these bars and restaurants, and they have a whole nother structure than we do here in Arizona. But since these bars are now giving up potential business, we have to make it fair. So they remove the ability for a New Jersey brewery to have a TV on with sports, amplified music. They can't do any educational programs, be it for their own products or other products, unless it's from a political organization or another outside organization. They can't do yoga. They can't do Andrew, come on, help me out here. They can't do games, trivia.
They can't encourage a food truck to come park near their building.
Oh, they can't. Well,
they can't even put it on a schedule anywhere.
Well, and they actually said, well, if somebody's eating there, we don't know if you coordinated. So you cannot eat in a brewery. You cannot have coffee. There was a brewery that has coffee.
Cannot have coffee.
Cannot have coffee.
No coffee allowed.
But you can do these things now 25 times a year, but you have to file 10 days in advance. So like if somebody flips on curling on the TV.
You just use one of your things up?
Yeah, well, no, you didn't because you're in violation because you didn't do that 10 days ago. You didn't get your permit.
You didn't get a permit 10 days ago?
Yeah.
Listen, I feel like these are written not by people that actually want to consume the product.
They're not.
Because as a consumer, I'd be like, this is horseshit.
So,
like, are you kidding me right now? I can't drink this fucking coffee as I have my wife drinking a beer. Like, that doesn't make no sense to me.
Right.
And it's not the business's problem. It's not their fault, right?
The slap in the face was like, you can't have food in.
Yeah.
And they required, and it's not a requirement here in Arizona, but they required them to take state approved training. And the first thing they drive in your head is like, serve as much food to people as possible, limit their consumption. Like, well, we can't do that. So like we're paying now to get a lecture on how. So there are elements of all these things in every state.
Yeah.
And so our licenses are different, but we do have quota licenses, which means for if you're selling liquor or you're selling beer and wine. So most of your craft beer bars are beer and wine, which is a number 7 license. And I don't know all the prices in every county, but it varies. But in Maricopa County right now, if you got a beer and wine license for $50,000, I think you got a bargain at this point.
Wow.
10 years ago it was $11,000. So they've gone up like real estate.
Yeah.
Liquor license.
And they're complaining that if anything, like we do the to-go
cocktails
to go, say a restaurant wants to sell a 6-pack.
Yeah.
That would be hurting the value of their license, which has tripled in the last 2 years.
So a full spirits license on premise, which has to-go rights.
In Maricopa County.
Yeah.
I mean, I think 150 maybe. I don't know. But like, I also heard of people overpaying by a lot because they're like, I want to open in 4 weeks. Find me someone with a license. You have to buy it from somebody. The state doesn't have any these licenses. Every once in a while they'll do a lottery. So you have to buy somebody and potentially have to buy their business out.
Wait, so this is like a domain squatting situation where people are squatting liquor licenses?
Kind of. I mean,
Could be if you buy a liquor license as an asset,
right?
You can take out loans against that license,
like Bitcoin.
Really?
Yeah.
So somebody literally could take out, make an LLC, take a liquor license out, or get a liquor license and then just squat on it,
sit on it,
and then until inflation goes up, and then
yeah. I mean, it's
you have to have it active within a certain amount of time.
There's a game you can play to get it done.
So does people that have websites have to be active on their website. It doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
There's a game you can play
a little closer
to get. And by the way, I'm pointing these things out. I'm not making anyone a bad guy. I get it. That's the game.
Right.
That's how you play the game. Yep. But it's a little disingenuous for saying, this is I paid $150,000. No, your dad in the 30s bought this or 50s bought this license at $100, and now it's accrued. But I get it. It is an asset. It's a part of your business.
Yeah.
It is potentially, if things go wrong, that's your nest egg. I get it. Totally get it. But even during the pandemic, and anytime we've introduced more licenses, and by the way, the census killed us because it's per 10,000 people. So that whole movement, like, don't count non-citizens.
Yeah.
They still drink.
Oh, yeah.
We get the benefit of them using resources. So that killed us. And we should have had 11th federal district. We should have had hundreds more licenses in the state. Anyway, in New Jersey, I just threw some prices out. In New Jersey, a top liquor license in a high value area, $2 million.
Holy shit!
So
now, there's only one license.
yeah.
So
Oh, okay.
there's not restaurant licenses. There's not beer, wine. There's not bar. There's just liquor licenses. So if you have a casino or you have a pizza shop,
It's the same.
it's
Same
the
license.
same license. And this is why there's such hugely inflated values.
Right. Well, and I'm sure the people
It's a
that
terrible licensing structure.
I'm sure people that have those licenses don't want that to change.
Right.
Like you
Sure.
said, it's going to devalue their license. They don't. If it's their nest egg, they don't want it to go down. Why would they vote for something that's going to
So when
screw
breweries
it
are giving these privileges, they
Yeah.
say, "Oh, well, that's
It's devaluing
Yeah.
it for me.
yeah."
I don't want to vote for
all
that.
300 of those breweries are going to make a big
And no
difference.
one is going to seize on goat yoga.
No.
No, you're not going to get goat yoga at Applebee's. They're not going to move all the tables.
No.
You're not going to get. You're not going to get these community-driven programs that have allowed breweries to stay alive during the pandemic, and also, sell maybe not as much liquor, but have more loyalty and value to what they're doing.
Impact to the community
Yeah.
in general. That's something you can't.
That's all on table. And I just, like I said, I want to, this can happen in any state,
Right.
because the handful of people that can institute these things are appointed by governors. So I don't. Do you ever watch Boardwalk Empire?
I have.
So New Jersey is literally a handoff
that's right.
of prohibition and those people, and all those liquor laws support exactly what that happens. But there's an element of all that, and I don't want to. I'm not using. I'm not going to use prohibition as a crutch, because a lot of these laws came in literally in the 70s
Too soon?
and 80s.
Is that why?
No. I mean, literally all this stuff about this is a prohibition. No, this happened in the 80s and the 90s. This happened all before the craft beer era. It can happen in any state because alcohol is a bolt-on to the regular case law of every state, and there are gray areas because when you try to restrict things, things come squirting out every which way.
Well, so if I get this right, you're saying that we write liquor laws at the state level, right?
Right.
And then there's a group that enforces them, and they interpret those laws however they see fit, and that can change depending on who's actually there.
I know at the front of this you want to talk about cocktails to go.
Yeah.
Right. We supported it in principle, but we were kind of shut out of it.
So why was that was that done at the state level, and it was during the pandemic? It was kind of an executive order, it was just an emergency situation going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most efficient way to transfer beverages is to go, right?
Right.
And by the way, it used to be illegal to serve growlers through a drive-through. We changed that during the pandemic too, because it's the most efficient. We didn't put up a fight when we asked for this right. When we changed from glass to stainless steel,
right?
They said, well, you just can't do it through a
drive-through,
and we're not really interested anyway, and
yeah, I don't think
it was like
It's a trade.
It was
we want stainless. Well, we want no drive-throughs.
Yeah,
Fine.
and at the time, I mean, I haven't heard anything from Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, but we sure heard a lot of it back then.
Oh, I imagine.
And now it's well, no, this is the most efficient way, safest way to transfer product without a lot of context. So we are asking for it now, and it went through no problem. It probably, if we would have put up a fight years ago, it probably still would have went through. But I don't need to make enemies with people like that.
Yeah.
Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
Right.
But
Trade-off.
But
Makes
to be
sense.
clear, at the same time, you could also buy a handle of Everclear through a drive-thru.
Right, which always blows my mind.
Yeah. I'll give you an example from the spirits to go, cocktails to go. They were all going to write rules about what sealable meant.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, we can argue about this all you want at the theoretical level, but what is a patrol officer going to do when they pull you over? Is that sealed? Let me see it. They're going to tip it over.
Right.
And if it comes, I'm if I'm that cop, I'm it's not sealed.
Yeah.
And that has nothing to do with the liquor law as written. It's this is not sealed.
Nope.
And they were getting all bent about it. I'm look, I already know how this is going to go down. We got this growler from Fate, and I was it had tape on it. I'm we don't have to do that legally anymore.
I was going to say, is that kind of the same?
Well, we don't have to do that legally anymore. And people ask me should we do it? I'm like, yeah, you should, because your regular customers might get pulled over by TPD or whoever, And like, if it's on there, like that's a level of, yeah, this has not been tampered with. Like, so it has a practical use, but like, we could have went round and round on what sealed meant, and it could have been, sealed in a cube of like, plaster.
Right.
Right. They can write those rules, and like, yeah, like everyone will be upset, but like it's a gambit as to whether, in this case, that was a pure power move in New Jersey. But I'm going to tell you right now, there's other examples like where you leave these laws exposed enough, someone might come in and take advantage of it.
Yeah.
So you're saying the pallet of resealable Capri Sun pouches I ordered was not a good investment?
Listen, if you used a heat sealer for them, you're fine. Fine. You're like, you can't put those over.
So does New Jersey have a guild?
They do. They have two guilds. Unfortunately, they went through, and this is a challenge for all of us in the country. They had a split between the people who had been around for 15, 20 years and the people who started in the last 5 to 7 years. And most of the people who were around for a while were forced into a distribution mode where they're making cans and bottles, and they're manufacturers. Remember, I said they changed that law in 2012, and they made a law to allow taproom breweries. So these other guys are invested in a certain kind of model, and like some of them saw the opportunity, like, hey, we don't have to do this, we can get this. But other people are like, no, not interested. We're fine. I'll tell you for the people who are around for 5 or 6 years, I mean, that's great, but I don't know that you see the full experience of what can happen in that short of a time. I know that sounds like a long time. Most businesses used to be businesses were around for 20 years. Like now it's gone down to half of that. It's a short amount of time. And if you're always in the taproom model, I mean, like literally the difference between someone who is cranking out product and putting it on shelves at Fry's is fundamentally different than making some beer and serving across the bar. Like, we call them breweries. They are breweries. We're all brothers and sisters, and we share a lot in common, but there's nothing that prepares you to do, if you're doing one, to do the other. It's a different kind of business.
Yeah.
And we're here to bring those people together. And the biggest struggle is you will have new entrants in the market. In my lifetime, we went from 25 breweries to 9,000. So it's really tough for state organizations to get everyone on the same
in the country.
Is it our lifetimes too, or just his?
Just
I was okay.
Yeah. So in the 70s, it was like,
Never mind. His lifetime.
is Miller cool? Yeah. 70s. Yeah. 70s are cool again. You know that.
That's true.
71, thank you.
They're coming back.
So that's the struggle. And we get it. Like a lot of these people are in startup mode. They have like zero time, but that's our challenge, is to bring everyone together to the table and have a big tent. And when we go down to the legislature, or we say something on behalf of the organization, I feel confident we speak for everybody. Not everyone agrees, but I think eventually they see that we're really trying to work with everybody and get everyone across the finish line.
And to kind of circle back, to bring it back to the beer festival, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that kind of creates that communication, right? You get breweries together and they talk, or they do collaborations, and they kind of learn each other's business structure and how they operate. And like, you get breweries coming in from out of state, and it opens up that communication, and you get feedback on how to kind of move forward. So, and also it raises money for the guild to make. We
all pour our beer into glasses, man. And once it's in a glass, we talk about it.
I see some metal solo cups. Is that?
Yeah, those.
That's in our future.
Yeah, it is. But like you're exactly right. We work backwards from the experience of drinking beer, and it is the greatest pleasure of this job is to have that experience with other people. And and it's not just brewer to brewer. Like people ask me like, "Oh, you must have an amazing cellar." And I'm like, "No, beer goes to die at my house."
Yeah.
Like if I bring it to my house, I'm like, I will probably not drink it as often. Like I wanted to open a brewery when I got interested, and I learned as much as I could and network with people. And Andrew and I knew each other's homebrewers, and we knew John Lane, and we knew a bunch of people from Ash. Who else did we?
Trethway, Matt at Grand Avenue. I mean, there's
the folks that open Old Ellsworth, the McKean,
Yeah.
Brian McKean and his wife and Ryan and
Christina.
Christine. Yeah, we're all part of that community. We all got together. We all enjoyed the same things, and like that is also a great experience. And that is what I love. And every once in a while, we can talk about things that actually matter in our lives, and the bringing together of that is so unique in this industry. Like I work with wineries too, and they don't have as many of those shared experiences.
That's a bummer.
Because
that's my favorite part of all of it.
yeah, no. So I mean, I'm trying to expand the tent to those folks and distilleries, and those guys are more cantankerous than winery owners, and some of my breweries owners think they're they all go your own way kind of people, but like we want to try to bring all those people together because like that's what I as long as we can support things that are organically grown in the state, built in the state, then we're going to all be better people.
I agree with that. Ed, what else you got, man?
I think we covered it.
Covered all of it?
Yeah, did everything. We don't have to talk. We don't have to do the podcast anymore.
All right, guys. It's good talking.
Yeah. I guess to kind of wrap things up, other than Real Wild and Woody, any big plans for the rest of the year? Or are you kind of winding down or winding up?
We kind of talked about what's going on.
Strong beer is the big one.
Yep.
In February. We had Baja Beer Fest in Tucson in April. That was
great.
Awesome. Absolutely amazing how that went. We're going to do Real Wild and Woody. We're going to do BrewCon, Arizona Craft Beer Awards and Festival, and
I'm going to bring a festival of Flagstaff pretty soon.
that's the goal. It'll be
Next year.
next
year.
summer.
All right.
Working with the Irish Cultural Center and doing something with them probably December. Wickenburg Oktoberfest. It's never dull. It's never dull, man. Like someone will call us next week and say, "Hey, we're going to do this thing, and we'd love for you to be involved." I have one of those going on right now.
Awesome.
I can't be involved in every single thing, but I can talk to you about it and maybe get some of our members involved with you and hand it off.
Right, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, we've got lots going on, and Arizona is so open as far as the way people think about what do we do on a weekend. Where can we do a beer festival? In Arizona, it can be anywhere. They'll go to the top of a mountain, have like 5 tents set up, and people will climb the freaking mountain to be there because that's the kind of state we live in. People just love doing things, and the experience and the being with other people is really the thing that makes us, I think, unique. I don't know. Maybe it's not unique, but I live here and I like it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, we've got some law changes coming out September 24th, and as we get closer to that, I don't even think most of our members understand the gravity of what's going on, and it sort of is a puzzle piece in what's going on. But like we have built both small fixes and forward-thinking things that are going to pay dividends in the next 5 to 10 years, or maybe even less. No, for sure less. But like I think people will be transformed into what's happening in the next 5 years, and we're gonna I think we're going to get some people who leave the industry. We're going to get people who join the industry. But at this point, it's not going to be because of COVID. It's going to be by choice. And even during COVID, there were fewer absolutely shutdowns. There was no fire sales, but there was handoff of businesses to other people to give them opportunity. There wasn't any like we got to shut down because we're literally gonna. Some of the ones that shut down abruptly, that was literally by choice, which is great. So
do you guys think that with the Super Bowl coming, that's a big opportunity to step up, or does that not even kind of register on a brewery level?
No, I'll tell you, I don't think during that event per se that. It's going to be a meaningful amount of money for any individual brewery, but what we have to understand is who we are as a state and what we can support. We have a rail line here. We have a couple, but they're not bringing product. We don't have people delivering, tons of grain and shipping out product on rail lines, and that's what you see on the East Coast. We don't have glass manufacturers here. We have some aluminum manufacturers, but not the sole source. They're just assembly. We don't have manufacturing, which is a part of a certain type of brewery, right? I mean, bigger breweries want that kind of infrastructure. We value our personal space. We are spread out. We have the car. We have tourism, and we should really flex on tourism and hospitality, because every drop of liquid that's served across the bar is going to be the most beneficial thing for that business. They'd love you to buy their products if they put it in cans and bottles or whatever in the stores, because those represent their growth feature and being able to scale up and sort of even out the ups and downs of the business. They're never going to tell you, like, don't buy it here. If they put it out there, they want you to buy it. However, if you have the opportunity to drink in the brewery, in the tap room, and look people in the face and experience their level of hospitality and help them with that, because I think there's still an element of people like, I make the best beer, why do I care? Like, no. We need to, as an industry, we need to really embrace hospitality and tourism, because that is our future. Because is there a industry that we're building here that really translates anywhere else? You can say the chip industry, but like we're not riding the coattails of the chip industry. We're not,
right.
Except for consumers. We're not riding the coattails of anything. Copper, cattle. It's climate, not citrus, right?
Cotton.
I mean, those are all legit things, but then those are past, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So Wren House isn't going to open in Intel next to the Starbucks.
They could.
I mean, they could, but I mean, it's all consumer based. Like they're not gonna develop a chip that makes beer.
My sister lives in Beaverton, Oregon, near the Intel plant, and let me tell you how many small breweries there are right at the entrances of that Intel plant. Whole bunches.
What? Odd.
It's a real thing.
Yeah,
They throw up. They're home brewers. They decide, I work at Intel. I homebrew. Why don't I just open a thing and open the garage door once in a while? And it's a thing.
Leave them work and want to get a beer.
I mean,
Yeah.
I know
Done with
we're
work, go get a beer.
closing this out. We might edit also stuff. Like, what do you guys want to see? Like, what do you see somewhere else that you want to see here? Because it's not from a lack of will from people that I know in this industry. It's probably related to how we are as a state, how we are as a city, how we handle traffic, how we handle parking spaces, public transportation, taxes. I mean, that's what we work on, is like smoothing that out. And like when we can get a law change that says it's not automatically illegal for you to open within 300 feet of a church, which is going to happen September. Like, you have an opportunity to work with that that religious organization. Like, right? Like, we opened up opportunity. Like, that's the kind of thing that changes things. But
Do
like,
churches need a liquor license
wait.
for the wine that they serve?
they do not.
Oh wait, so you're saying you can't open a business that close to a church?
Currently.
Not beer. Okay, because I live close to a church, and I was like, I'm gonna drink all I want in my own house. They can't fucking stop me.
Yeah,
I'll open it all day.
Yeah, you can't have a liquor license within 300 feet of a church. But now,
Yeah, well, my
you
garage
can
doesn't
still
need
get
liquor
denied,
license.
but like, it's not de facto.
Yeah.
And like, we've seen some churches that have embraced craft beer. We've seen some people who do that. But like, is there something
Right.
from your experience that like you wish we had here in the state? Because that's what we work on.
The thing, because I went to Firestone Walker this year.
Yeah.
The Invitational.
Yeah.
That was from 2019.
Yeah.
They postponed it 2 years. 3 years.
Yeah.
And they honored all the tickets from that 2019 event. The cool thing I thought it was is they pre-checked everybody and then kind of walked everybody in a welcome area. And David Walker was sitting there pouring like a welcome beer.
Yeah.
Is that something? Because I know there's the whole ticket thing, and I know like California doesn't have that. Is that something like?
We try to do that a little bit, but I guess, if you want to blame something on me, this is what you can blame it on. I don't necessarily want to rely wholly on volunteer help. That is run by their Chamber of Commerce, and there's a ton of volunteerism at that festival. Partly because they, the Chamber of Commerce is responsible for that piece. A second piece is, I would doubt that that's a revenue generator for Firestone Walker. That is a marketing opportunity. And
Well, yeah, I think he was pouring their like the official like collab beer
Right.
for the festival.
right. It's a different dynamic. The experience of the consumer, I get. Like, yeah, I mean, I would love to be able to not have to worry about expenses and not have to worry about and create an experience. It's a different animal.
Right.
That's my dream, Rob. I just want you out
listen,
there pouring beer, welcome people.
Yeah, I'd love to
Get
do
your
that,
cowboy
man.
hat on and
Crazy, yeah.
No, but it's just similar with when Tour de Fat comes here. Like the whole point of that is to recognize the brand, and more than the proceeds, they donate to bike organizations. Yeah, I mean, so I'd love to have that treasure chest to do that. We totally love to do that. Like we would like to be, but the reality is we're a lobbying organization and we need funds to do what we do.
Right.
But maybe someday. I mean, you get degrees of it. Like I said, nobody in their right mind should have had a beer festival at the convention center in Phoenix and put that money at risk unless you had the deep pockets and the political will to do it. And we did at the time. We just don't have it today.
Right.
So, yeah, let's do it. Like, let's get somebody to pay for all that.
Well, I think we've always talked about like when people scream into the void about like the guild or guild events or beer festivals. Go to a beer festival that's not sponsored by the guild, like these big commercial ones. Maybe you could reach out to Untapped and help them sort their dumpster fire of brew festivals. But I mean, they are some of the best run festivals in the country. People here are kind of spoiled because a lot of people don't go to those other festivals and they complain like look at Firestone Walkers in Paso Robles. You think people in LA are complaining that it's not in LA or they have to go rent a room? Like California is much bigger. It's not like Tempe to Phoenix or Phoenix to Mesa. It's Northern California to Southern California.
I've been to that festival. I enjoyed it. But like, can you imagine if I just invited a bunch of people from Japan and Sweden to be at this, like an overabundance? Like, no, we're here to fulfill a different kind of mission. And I don't know their balance sheet, and I'm making assumptions, but I'm assuming that they get to use that place for free, and I'm assuming that Firestone Walker puts up a bunch of money because they believe in it. But I mean that happens. That can happen here too, but it won't necessarily be a guilt thing because we don't have that kind of focus.
Right.
I'm happy you say that we're well run, but I think our hearts are in it. I think we can't show a bad festival because of who our membership is and who we report to. I mean, we make mistakes, but I again, if you want to throw one thing and back at me, like, yeah, I do not like using an overabundance of volunteer people because I think people should get paid for it. The downside is we pay for a lot of people who are not adequate for the job. We have to work with, and I'm not blaming the companies that use that provide that service necessarily wholly. I just think that if I had 100 volunteers, that's great, and everyone, but I'd rather have them attend the festival, have a good time, and pay for people's services. But that's where we're at.
But I think that mentality has kind of trickled down because there's quite a few breweries who will not use volunteers when they go to these festivals.
Yeah, I mean,
the local breweries, they will bring their people 100% of the time.
Well, you also want them to be able to represent your brand the best way you can, and volunteers can't do that. Now, they can bring people who are big fans that come in and sit at their bar 4 days a week and know the brand really well. There are
some
options.
ambassadors and stuff. Yeah,
there are options.
I think it can be done well, but you have to have that day-to-day contact with them and have a physical. Like we could hire. I mean, I will tell you, there's 5 or 10 people that would volunteer for us, but I know them personally and. We work on the day-to-day, but I think as a brand you can do that, and you can set the parameters because you just say, hey, I mean you're open all the time. You're like, come in, we'll work on this together. I think that's actually a great opportunity, but for a business, but like for a guild that if we show up and do a festival in Wickenburg, we're not going to have those relationships with people in Wickenburg to that level.
So kind of what Ed said and about the Firestone Walker, and I know you just talked about going to a brewery and actually hospitality and stuff. I think that's kind of like my mindset is Ed had an experience at Firestone Walker, right? And I know you said it's something that you might not be able to do because of the cost or whatever it's going to be, but that's an experience that he's now going to talk about with 1,000 people.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? So like, I think that in my mindset, it's the consumer experience. Yeah. What can you guys do differently or add to the consumer experience that makes it like that? That's a very unique experience,
of course,
that he's not going to get anywhere else.
And we do that. I did a video talking about this during the pandemic. Like, this is what I do. I brought Andrew to DC because we did lobbying there in DC. a couple weeks ago, and I invited him to make sure he got to savor. Unfortunately for me, it was a different experience because they had to make, adjustments because of they had to time it with when we were up there for lobbying, which is timed with when members of Congress are going to be there, and they didn't have the traditional place they used to have it. They had to move it somewhere else. And when we got there was no verticality to branding. There was no. It was all tables. It was like literally like. And then this happened at Fobab. It's a different experience when you're on the East Coast at Festival of Barrel Aged Beers. I want to recreate the best of those things, but like that walkthrough experience, like you have 3 breweries at a 6-foot table with no branding. And you have aisles that are no bigger than this office, like 12 feet. Like, if I put that out there as what we do in Arizona, think about us. We like our cars. We like our elbow room. People would not be happy with that. And they had obscenely good beers. I mean, and so people there are used to that experience. So we try to take the best of those experiences. No doubt about it. But, we're limited, and, I'm not... making excuses. Like, we're trying to get through this piece right now.
100%. Yeah, it's a rough patch for everybody.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what we felt. That's what we felt we achieved better at Bellbank Park with Strong Beer, because we had a square that we could fill in any way we want, and as opposed to working around all that infrastructure and paying a lot of money for fencing and all that stuff. And I mean, if you were there, you saw full-scale rink wrestling. You saw a squadron of biplanes do a flyover. You saw a old-timey Western gunfight.
Surprise!
Yeah, that scared the shit out of everybody.
I mean, like, I if I would have put it together, I would have had an alien ship land and say, "This is a we're going to reboot. We're going to reboot the system. We're going to go back to 2019. Everybody, plug your ears, close your eyes, and we'll be there." That was kind of what I felt.
Yeah, it was. That was definitely some experiences, and we definitely talked about all those things after the fact. It was definitely, and we talked to other people about those things too. So, stuff like that. Where
are we going to have wrestling again at Real Wild and Woody?
I know.
Damn,
I know it's a space, but
that's Strong Beer.
That is a trapping. That's actually Phoenix Beer Co. is they're responsible for that relationship, and I think they're still doing that stuff. Like
at their brewery,
maybe some roller derby. I don't know. Like
a roller derby would be cool.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
That's an install.
That is.
Well, they got the fields. Maybe now you need to work on the Arizona Craft Brewers Guild softball tournament.
No, pickleball tournament. Pickleball tournament.
Brewery versus brewery.
Funny you mention this. We're actually trying to come up with before winter a curling experience.
I know what that is. Do you know?
No,
okay,
I was born in this state.
Well, there is a curling. There are at least 1 or 2 places you can do that, and we're going to work on industry, but we might have some some top tier spaces for some consumers. But I don't know. All this is predicated on keeping the excitement level up for all of our members, and like we understand the fatigue. Like, these guys have been through a lot.
Yeah, they put hours in, man.
And I don't want to just say guys. This is the backbone of this is built on people who are making heroic efforts, and you can't sustain that forever. So I mean, we've had some people say, "Hey, can't make it this time," or we intended to. And like, totally get it.
You get burned a little bit. You got to take a rest.
Constant requests for festivals from all sides.
Yep.
Right on.
Yeah, and people are in this industry aren't in it for the money, so when things kind of get squeezed, they have to really pull back. And so the fact that there's even beer festivals going on is a credit to the brewers in this state and the guild. And like I said, I went to Firestone Walker, and that's a huge festival, and that was postponed 3 years. They couldn't sustain it. So the fact that you guys are able to continue to this and recover is credit to everybody who participates in this industry.
Yeah, but it's definitely a goal to be in a place where we don't rely on the income, and we create some experiences that are not revenue generators and some that are. And I'm telling you, when we started Real Wild Woody and we did it, the first one at the Tempe Center for the Arts, that was not a money-making endeavor in the first couple of years. at the Phoenix Convention Center. Like, it was like, an accountant could write this as a loss, a break even, or a gain, depending on what we count. We built some relationships that moved forward that were definitely bonuses, but that's just the nature of what we do. Like, we run in between, raising money and creating experiences and creating brand loyalty and featuring our breweries.
And that's what it comes down to, right, Chris?
Yes.
That's what we try to accomplish, to feature breweries and you guys. And, well, you don't need us anymore because you have your own podcast.
Which I'm hoping is going to be a lot of weird beer history and laws. I hope it's a lot of that. I will definitely tune in for.
I just want to see Rob in a cowboy hat sitting on a mountain telling us history lessons of Arizona and beer in Arizona.
No, you guys, if you need background information, if you need anything, like, that's what we're here for. And I hope that translates to everybody who's, doing a lot of good work in this space. But we wanted the opportunity to talk literally about public policy and like I said, if I was up for a collaboration beer, and so I wanted to talk to people and get some information out there. So maybe if you hear it, maybe you could take it in another direction, or if you need those connections, that's what we're here for.
So what about a ghost town beer brewery? No, I'm joking. True crime podcast. No, all right, fine, whatever. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah,
No,
ghost towns in Arizona. True crime beer podcast. That's a very niche group of people.
As everybody in the state just loves going to different places that are out in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
Like, that's totally a hallmark of our state. So to answer your question faithfully, we built and inherited some very large events, and we can't walk away from those. But we are interested in creating smaller experiences. But know that it's just the two of us, and so, like, we got limits too.
Right. Yeah, that's how it works.
There's only 104 weekends between the two of us, so
But speaking of information, where can people find the Guild online, or social media?
Looking at you,
podcast?
Andrew. Look
Yeah,
at
Andrew,
you.
putting you on the spot.
Choose AZBrews.com. That's a great one. And then there's also Facebooks and Arizona Craft Brewers Guild. I mean, I don't know.
Arizona Beer Frontier to hear, like, stuff.
I'm not sure what
videos.
the actual Instagram handle is.
You'll find us. I mean, I think the podcast is a little bit that too, because we would never do a social media post on some of the stuff we do. So it is breathing life into something that we don't have. But, like, we used to do a newsletter, but we just found it wasn't being as received as we want, but it could go that direction too, possibly. Just run one of us down. Like, we'd love to see. Here's what I'll tell you, and it's even these in our professional circles, and you heard me say this to people in our industry, and people who, like, I can't even believe that you waited to talk to me. Like, people who I look up to, like, oh, I saw you, I didn't want to interrupt you. I'm like, no, fucking interrupt me, man. Interrupt me, man, because I will introduce you who I'm talking to, and we'll have a great conversation either way. If you see Andrew or myself or whatever, just interrupt. Like, introduce yourself. Say hello. Reintroduce yourself. Tell us what you want to know, because that's what we're here for. And like I said, if we're talking to somebody, maybe you don't know who that is, but maybe I'm like, you should know this person.
Yeah, there you go.
We're here to introduce people too. So nobody is too important that I'm talking to that you can't say, hey, I'm a big fan of what you do. I'm like, shut up, guy I'm talking to. I'm talking to this guy now. Whatever. Yeah, do it.
Awesome.
Chris, where can people find us?
They can find us at hoppycraftsmen.beer. We're pretty cool that way with .beer.
Yeah,
website.
you guys have a craftbrewers.beer
No.
website?
We're definitely not cool.
I'm going to say we have 25 URLs though. but we have Real Wild and Woody and realwildwoody.com.
That is impressive. Not that many. We
Yeah.
have two. But yeah, hoppycraftsmen.beer, and then Instagram, we're just Hoppy Craftsmen. It's probably the best place. We're always on there. Ed, do you know the patron supporters?
I don't. One of them sitting here.
He is. Rob, this guy over here,
But
supporter
Chris
of the
does
show.
because
Actually, I
he
did. I brought
keeps
it
it
up
on his
earlier
phone.
because I was fancy like that.
Because we don't
I got
do
my
it for the money either, so people are generous enough to give us money. So, Chris, who are our Patreon supporters?
Our Patreon supporters are Jeff Johnson, Riley Greenbaum, Anthony Bracamonte, Zach Dominguez, Selena Gomez, and of course the gentleman next to us, Rob Fulmer.
And I'm just at the buy you a beer every once in a while.
You
level.
are
Like,
at that one.
It's not like I'm spending thousands of dollars on y'all.
No, listen. We still haven't got the $5,000 tier person.
Yeah,
So
nobody's
that's definitely
bit
not
that
you,
bullet
Rob.
yet.
So.
And I want to say that you guys gave me money back during the pandemic. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Like,
We did. We didn't record episodes, and I didn't want to charge people for content we didn't deliver, so I gave them money back. So
I appreciate that.
yeah, I understand. Listen, I'm not taking money that I don't do things. So that's how it works. But thank you for being a supporter. We love all our patrons. We actually we just gave Rob some stickers as well, and then we'll actually be sending out stickers to the other patron supporters soon. So
Excellent. It was
Nice.
great to talk to you guys, and I'm excited to find out how we're going to edit this thing down.
it should be great.
Maybe we'll just throw it out there. I don't know. Like, we'll break it up. You guys
Yeah,
do what
we'll
you
see
want to do.
because Rob might release it on his podcast. We'll release it on ours, and you can listen to both and see how
Ooh, and it's better.
Hey, I'm going to tell you right now, the Easter egg is we recorded something backwards. And we're going to layer that in. And
Gotta find it.
Yeah.
look for the hidden meetings.
Whoever gets it gets one of these glasses.
I am the walrus.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for chatting. We'll talk to you next time.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Rob.
guys.
Thanks, Andrew. We'll see you next time.